Okay. So what did we discuss in our previous class? We are discussing
Finished chapter.
Bhagavad Gita
very good.
as it is.
Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. We concluded with chapter
Chapter 12.
Chapter 12. So what was the summum bonum of chapter 12?
The devotional service is the highest. Devotional service is the highest, because Arjuna asked a question, like, initially he asked whether the impersonal or the personal devotional service is the highest. So personal service and all the qualities we talked about, like the mode of goodness, which automatically will come in the devotional service. You don't have to acquire that. That will become transcendental qualities rather than mode of goodness.
So there are two things three or four themes which we discussed. One was, yes, that personal conception of the Supreme is higher than the impersonal conception, which Lord concludes in the initial part of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Also, the Lord says that Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavad Akinchana. So we saw that Sarvair Gunair Tatra Samasatyasura Bhara Abhakta Kuto Mahatruna Manorathena Siti Dhavatavai. So when one undertakes devotional service, all the good qualities of the demigods descend upon that person, which is the second characteristic of Bhakti anyway, which is Shubhada. Right? After Kleshagni, then Shubhada. So Lord is also saying, Srila Prabhupada also writes in the purport that yes, undoubtedly a devotee does not have to endeavor for developing qualities which are in the mode of goodness outside of the realm of devotional service, right? But at the same time, there is another interesting idea that is being given, that without devotional service, even the good qualities, the existence of the good qualities which are part of the mode of goodness are useless, right? For example, there is no point in being an honest person if you are not a devotee. I am not saying that we should not be honest by that. I am saying that mere honesty without understanding the Supreme is also within the three modes of material nature, and therefore such an honesty will not last the test of, will not stand the test of time. Right? Because why? Because Manorathena Sati Dhavatavai. Today somebody will be demonstrating those good qualities, but because there is lack of Krishna consciousness, then there is nothing that is going to carry those good qualities over a period of time. Sometimes that's what happens, no? When in the material world we find some relationships, no? Oh, he is my very best friend, and tomorrow then they are not. Right? So it's like that. Why? Because both of them were in their mode of goodness when they met. Oh, you are my best friend. He'll say, you are my best friend, and I'll do this for you. I'll help you, get you a PR in Australia or whatever, something like that. And then after some time, then the relationship just drifts apart. Because over a period of time, one cannot be in the mode of goodness without Krishna in the center. Right? But for a devotee need not even worry about these things, because automatically when we perform devotional service, then the mode of goodness, the good qualities of the mode of goodness automatically comes to a devotee. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadayatukam. Which means that a person who performs devotional service need not do an external endeavor. Jnana and Vairagya automatically come. And that too, it comes soon. Asu means fast. It comes very quickly to a devotee. So we saw that. So, to sum up the chapter 12, because we are going to discuss chapter 13 today. To sum up chapter 12, the ideal situation of Bhava Bhakti or Prema Bhakti is what? Nitya Smarana. That is called as Smarana Dasha. Smarana Dasha means always one is thinking of the Lord. Whether he is at home, whether he is at workplace, wherever. Whether you are in a favorable situation, whether all the odds are stacked against you. In all circumstances, when one is always thinking of the Lord, that is called as Smarana Dasha. Of course, there are various examples which are given of Smarana Dasha also in the Madhurya Kadambini. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, he talks about the concept of Uddipana. Uddipana means that you see everything as Krishna's arrangement, whatever is happening. For example, you will see a bird sitting on a tree, and then an advanced devotee thinks, okay, if this bird flies in the next 2 minutes from the tree, then I think I will have Krishna's mercy today. Something like that. That's called as Uddipan. Which means whatever you are seeing, you are somehow seeing the hand of Krishna in everything. Or whatever you are seeing that as Krishna's, in its connection to Krishna. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he saw a hill, then he ran towards that, shouting what? Govardhana. Right? He ran towards that. So that's an example of how a pure devotee, of course, Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, but he was telling us what is the consciousness of a pure devotee. He is still in the mood of a devotee. He is not in the mood of Krishna. He is in the mood of the highest devotee, Radharani. So he is looking at that hill and then he is running towards that, saying that this is Govardhan. So that is the perfection of Smarana Dasa. Everything that you see, 24 hours, walking, talking, sleeping, you are thinking of Lord Krishna, like that. So that is the perfection. Now, if we cannot do that 24/7, if we can't think of the Lord, then it is said that we perform what is called as Sadhana Bhakti. No, sorry, Sadhana Bhakti can be Vaidhi or Raganuga. Both are Sadhana Bhakti, right? We perform Sadhana Bhakti. So, where we are trying to forcibly fix our mind directly on Lord Krishna. The challenge for a non-devotee and for a devotee is different. The challenge for a non-devotee, which we discussed, for a devotee is what? I don't know, I was trying to concentrate on my worldly material activities, but I don't know why my mind keeps on going towards Krishna. That is their problem. Our problem is, I am trying to chant attentively and my mind is drifting to outside of Krishna. That is our problem. So their problem is exactly ulta of our problem. Right? In that sense. So therefore, in this situation that conditioned souls like us are, then if you can't do full-time Smarana Dasa, at least, Prabhupada is saying, or Lord Krishna himself is saying, then follow the principles of Sadhana Bhakti. This is because many of you missed this class last time. Last time also the attendance was thin, last class. So that the mind can be fixed directly on Lord Krishna. So we have to train our mind to pull it and then keep it on Lord Krishna. If we can't even do that, if we can't even follow the process of Sadhana Bhakti and fix our mind on Krishna, then it is recommended that we perform Karma Yoga. Right? So at least we work with detachment, offering the fruits of our activities to the Lord. Sakama or Nishkama. That will award one actual peace. Knowing who is the enjoyer, who is the supreme beneficiary of all our activities. Right? We know that. That's why we are offering the fruits to him. Knowing that you are the supreme beneficiary, therefore, I have done this endeavor, now you take the fruits. That is what 5.29 is all about. Bhuktaram, Eketapasham, Sarva Lokamaheshwaram, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, Nyatvam Amshan. So that's the principle of Karma Yoga, the driving principle that Lord Krishna is the supreme beneficiary, so then I work and then I offer the fruits. So if we can't work for Krishna, at least we will work and offer the fruits to Krishna. If we can't even do that, then
We cultivate knowledge.
if we can't do that, then we cultivate knowledge. At least knowledge. Which knowledge we are talking about? This is not the highest knowledge. This is Brahma Jnana, which is what we saw last time, right? That knowledge and meditation which Lord Krishna is asking us to cultivate in the subsequent verse is Brahma Jnana, and meditation was on the super soul, not in any one particular form of the Lord. Meditation on the super soul is not same as meditation on any particular form of the Lord. This point also comes across in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, which we are currently studying in our Bhaktivedanta course, that Gajendra, when his leg was caught by the crocodile, when he was being pulled, then of course Gajendra is glorious, he is offering prayers. There is one chapter called as prayers offered by Gajendra. But if you see, there is one very brilliant point that Prabhupada writes there, that Gajendra did not call out to any specific form of the Lord. He doesn't say, oh Sham Sundara. He doesn't say like that. Oh Aniruddha. He doesn't say like that. He is just calling out to the Lord. In general, right? In general terms. Then the Lord still appears, but the Lord appears as a part and parcel. He doesn't appear in the original form in front of Gajendra. It is said that it was the reign of one of the Manus. I forgot which Manu. Tamasa Manu. During Tamasa Manu's reign, and then it is mentioned that the Lord comes as Hari. Is it? Hari. So he comes in the form of Hari, and then on a Garuda Vahan, and then he liberates Gajendra. So this meditation is meditation on the super soul, not on any specific form of the Lord. So if we can't do that, at least do this. If we can't do anything out of this, then at least do philanthropic work. So that's the section. I am repeating this because so many of you were not there in the last class, and from your exam point of view, this concept is very important to understand, that flow. Right? So again and again, third time we are repeating in the class. Okay. Don't tell later on exam mein kyun question diya. Okay. So work for a mundane cause. That's the last option. Most of mankind anyway doesn't do that also. That's a different issue. But at least work for a mundane cause. But what is the difference between all the above activities and the last activity? In all the above activities, you get what? Correct. You get some chukriti. Whereas in the last activity, no matter for many lifetimes, one may do mundane, one may work for mundane causes. Janma koti chukriti na labhyate. It will not come. That chukriti will not come. Because you have no concept of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In your activities, you don't have an iota of knowledge that there is somebody supreme. That's why sometimes when you do these philanthropic activities, one may get proud also. No? I am the doer. I have opened a hospital. Therefore, if you come to Bombay, because I come from Bombay, so you will get that Ghanshyam Das, Hare Krishna Das hospital, and outside Lord Krishna's picture or Guru will not be there. No, it will be the person, the grandfather will be there. No, the shawl like that. The old man statue will be there outside. Then everyone will go, Hare Ghanshyam Das. After some time, anyway, everyone will ignore. But at least some statue is there, which means there is so much of the conception of I am the doer. Because of this person, then this whole hospital is there like that. That is not the mood. Whereas what Srila Prabhupada teaches us is to keep Krishna in the center. Because ultimately it's the Lord who enables us to do everything. Not a blade of grass moves without the desire of the Lord. So therefore, by continuously doing philanthropic activities without regard for Krishna, Shukriti will certainly not come. But there is a great risk that pride can come. And pride comes before the fall. So that is something which you have to go. So in that sense, 12th chapter is concentrating on pure devotional service. That's why the chapter is titled as Devotional Service. And that chapter number 7 to 12 is sandwiched in the Bhagavad Gita between the Karma Yoga sections and now the Jnana Yoga section, which we are going to discuss from 13th to the 18th chapter. Okay. So that brings us to the chapter 13, story time. Yes. Relax for 5 minutes. Because after that you are going to cry, I can tell you. 5 minutes you can relax. Because this chapter is one of the most technical chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. It's one of the most complicatedly worded chapters. Okay. It took me a while, to again read. Though I have read it before, but if you have to scrutinizingly read, and moreover if you have to teach, then you have to be even more scrutinizing. So it's a bit of a very technical. But we'll try and make it as simple as possible for all of us. Okay. So chapter 13 is called as Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Okay. So before we get into chapter 13, as usual, we'll do the Falashruti. So this is from Gita Mahatmya. What is the benefit of studying and reciting chapter 13? So in the south, you may note down, I'm joking. In the south, we have Tungabhadra river. And over there, on the banks of the river, there is a town called Hariharpur, where there is Lord Shiva is worshipped as Harihar. Now it is mentioned that darshan of this Lord Shiva is very auspicious. Now on the banks of this river there was a Brahmana who used to live, whose name is Hari Dikshit. Doesn't matter his technicality, but there was a Brahmana who lived, who was extremely learned, and not only was he learned, he was humble also, and he was a very simple man. His wife, however, was exactly opposite. Therefore her name itself was Durachar. So she was a low class woman. And she was so low class that she was very abusive to her husband. She used to use abusive language to address her husband. On top of that, she was unchaste also. And she used to take intoxicants. So everything was there. All the qualities which nobody wants is there. Now, what she used to do was, so unchaste she was, and so much was she under the control of sex desire, that she made a small structure in the forest so that every day she could go there and she could enjoy with some man, bodily relationship. Such a fallen lady. So she can meet her lovers. It is written like that, Gita Mahatmya. Now one day when she went, she didn't find anyone. And then she was completely bewildered and she said, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to enjoy today? So as she was thinking like that, one tiger approached from somewhere. And the tiger was looking at her, trying to devour her. But this lady told the tiger that, look, you are going to eat me, but at least tell me why you want to eat me. That's kind of a question. I mean, normal people won't ask such a question. Why do you want to eat me? But she asked. Gita Mahatmya says so. She asked, why do you want to eat me? So the tiger starts speaking. The tiger says that on the south there was a river called Malapaha. Again there is a Lord Shiva deity called Panchalinga. And the tiger says that in my earlier lifetime I was a greedy Brahmana. And I was so greedy that I used to perform sacrifices for the qualified as well as the unqualified. Do you know of any Brahmanas in India who perform yajnas for the unqualified? Have you heard of such Brahmanas? You have never heard of such Brahmanas? You will always see such Brahmanas.
We don't see Brahmanas.
Okay, they are not Brahmanas, that's a good one. So mostly you will see that people will do anything. Even if they say marriage ceremony, chota wala karo ya medium budget. What's your budget? Like that. Budget drives the mantras. Okay. And one day somebody was telling me, I think it was, whose class was it? Radha Gopinath Prabhu, yeah. Radha Gopinath Prabhu was giving this class in one of the lectures that I think it was Radha Gopinath Prabhu. I could be wrong, but it doesn't matter who it was. There was one wedding which happened, and in the wedding, the Brahmana was narrating some esoteric mantras. Nobody could understand what he was speaking, but everyone, kya mantra bolta hai? Like that. There was one man who knew Sanskrit there, and he said, these mantras are when someone dies. You remember? Huh?
Mummy told you.
She told, but some class.
Because it's deviation.
Deviation, yeah. So this is actually like that. You know, he was saying these kind of mantras, and nobody knew. So this person said, "Arey, what is he speaking? What kind of mantras that you are supposed to recite in a marriage?" But it seems that the bridegroom's father, they said, "Shh, don't disturb anything now. Let's just continue. Let's complete. Don't create scene here." That was the instruction given to this man. And the Brahmana was also very happy. I don't have to raise my voice. Anyway, he has solved my problem. So this is like, Lobi Guru, Lalchi Chela. Both are like that. So nothing will come out. There's an unenlightened audience, and then there is a illiterate Brahmana. So both of them, you scratch my back, I scratch my back. So very nicely the material world is moving on like that. Unenlightened masses, unenlightened leaders. Like that. So this person used to do, was a greedy Brahmana like that. And he used to perform sacrifices for the unqualified. And he used to eat from the homes of materialistic persons. So when you eat from out of materialistic people's hands, what happens? Obviously mind. That's why we don't eat outside. No? So therefore, when we eat anything that is not offered to the Lord, then obviously our consciousness is disturbed. We will find suddenly that material desires are coming up, sex desire is coming up. Suddenly that you feel like going and bidding for that house in Purat which you don't require. Correct? All these material desires will surface. So what we put in our mouth is very important. We become what we put in our mouth. So this person started collecting more and more funds for his own sense gratification by doing these yajnas for unauthorized people. On top of that, he used to criticize the Brahmanas who used to follow the 4 regulative principles. He used to never give anything in charity. One day, when he was going out on his Madhukari, so he went to some house of some supposed Brahmanas. So these Brahmanas were rascals. So what they did was they set out their dog behind him. And the dog came and bit this person and he died. Now because he was such a unqualified Brahmana or a fake Brahmana, therefore he got the body of a tiger. So you remember the thread now. So he got the body of a tiger and he could remember all his past birth. But he had some piety. So he said that I will not, as a tiger, I will not attack a sannyasi, I will not attack a Vaishnava, and I will never attack a chaste lady. And here this lady was, whose name was? Very good. Durachara. She was there. So then he explained, now this is why I am going to now eat you, because you have been unchaste in your life. So this lady gets devoured by the tiger after this conversation. And then after death, what happens? Where does she go? To the heavenly planets? Obviously not, yeah. So it is said that she went, the Yamadutas took her to a place called Duyada. If you want more information, you can read 5th canto. Give description of hellish planets. There is one separate chapter there. So she goes to Duyada, where there is a lake of stool, urine and blood. Okay. And she had to live there for 10 million kalpas. 10 million kalpas. And then what happened? Finally, because she was unchaste, what happened? 10 million kalpas she lived. And then what? Any guesses? Huh? No. I knew you'll say that. Then she had to further go down to another hellish planet called as Raurava for 100 manvantaras. So both the men and women, you know what is the price for being unchaste. It's a very high price. So, and then after all that punishment, then what happened? Took birth in the material world as a female Chandala. Right? But after all this, what happened? After all this punishment, what happened? Huh? Any guesses? Huh? Buddhi aa gayi? No. She continued the same sinful life. Just imagine. It's unbelievable. When I was reading it, I was thinking, Bapre, after so much punishment, at least some change will come. Okay? So she continued the same sinful life and she got afflicted with leprosy and tuberculosis. So much of sin. So much of sin. Right? So much of sin. And after so much of punishment, what happens? The inclination to, the desire to sin will not go away, no? By punishment. By punishment, only the sinful reactions will be minimized. But desire to sin doesn't go away. Bijam and Kutam doesn't go away. Correct? So therefore, again sin and leprosy and tuberculosis. Again, prarabdha. Under that situation, she went to Hariharpur, close to the Parvati temple. And there, what happened? There was a great saint, Vasudev, who every day, now you fill in the blank. Very good. And then what happened? Very good. Let's go to verse number 1. Tarun Prabhu, you're thinking that ये point पे आने के लिए इतना I know what you're thinking.
Even the Father Shruti was little technical. It was quite technical.
That's quite technical. Chapter is going to be worse. This was the most enjoyable part of the class. Trust me.
High impact story.
It's already over now.
High impact story.
High impact story.
So what is the benefit?
So the benefit was that the Vasudeva saint, he was reciting the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day. So she heard it from his mouth. She got attracted, and she heard that 13th chapter again and again and again. Gave up her Chandala body in that very lifetime, got a 4-armed form, and went back to the spiritual. That is the power of hearing 13th chapter. To deliver us of all sins. And especially person who studies, who just reads, hears this is so fortunate. What to speak of? Studying this chapter. And then what to speak of doing well in your exam. Please do well, please study properly. Okay. So verse number 1 and 2. Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." Already it's getting there now. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Mahesh Prabhu, express. Yeah.
Arjuna was inquisitive about Prakriti, the nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field, Kshetra Jnana, its knower, knowledge, and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all these, Krishna said that this body is called the field, and that who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord it over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. That field of activity is a body. And what is a body? The body is made of senses. The conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy the sense gratification, he is offered a body or field of activity. Therefore, the body is called Kshetra, or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. Now, the person who should not identify himself with the body is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. It is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower, the body and knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age, he undergoes so many changes of body, and yet is still one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between the knower of the field of activities and the actual field of activity. The living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning, Dehinosmi, that the living entity is within the body, and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age. And the person who owns the body knows that the body is changing. The owner is distinctly Kshetrajna. Sometimes we think, I am happy, I am a man, I am a woman, I am a dog, I am a cat. These are the bodily designations of the knower. But the knower is different from the body. Although we may use many articles, our clothes, etc., we know that we are different from the things being used. Similarly, we also understand by little contemplation that we are different from the body. I or you or anyone else who owns a body is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field of activities, and the body is called Kshetra, the field of activity itself. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the knower of the body is the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. The superior position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the subordinate position of the individual soul are definitely defined in these chapters. The living entities are subordinate under all circumstances, but in their forgetfulness they are suffering. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities, as the distressed, those in want of money, the inquisitive, and those in search of knowledge. That is also described. Now, starting in the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with the material nature, and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and the discharge of devotional service are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, he somehow becomes related. This is also explained.
What are the points here? Huh? What of point is it?
Too many points.
Body is the field. Body is the kshetra and the soul is the kshetragya.
Partly correct.
We are not the body.
The body is the field of activity. Soul is.
Yeah, right. It's partly. There's one more aspect to it. We will discuss that later.
Soul.
Anything else?
The soul is the knower of the field of the sea.
That's all. After a big purpose. Okay. If you remember anything, you can pitch in. So, the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita talked about how Karma Yoga or action on the platform of Krishna Consciousness leads to Bhakti. That is what first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita discussed. The next 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita directly talked of the process of Bhakti, not through Karma Yoga or anything. Direct, pure devotion. Now, the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita discuss how Jnana leads to Bhakti. How Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti, then direct Bhakti, and now last 6 chapters how Jnana leads to Bhakti. Okay. So Arjuna begins this chapter 13 by inquiring on 6 topics. What are the 6 topics?
Prakriti,
Prakriti,
Purusha,
Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetragnya,
knowledge, and
Jnana,
object
and Neya, which is the object of knowledge. So these are the 6 topics that are being discussed here. So Lord Krishna first addresses Kshetra and Kshetragnya in this verse. So Kshetra is the body as the field of activities. And Kshetragnya is the knower of the field of activities. The field of activities and the knower of the field of activities. Now in text 3 to 7, the next set of verses, Lord is going to continue to address both of this in great detail. However, in text 3, the Lord also gives a smattering on the topic of knowledge. We said no, Jnana. Jnana is another subject matter. So these 3 will be dealt initially. Jnana to some extent, but Kshetra and Kshetragnya will be discussed. Now, this is very important. Why the Lord is opening this topic with Kshetra and Kshetragnya? Any ideas? Why is the Lord discussing Kshetra and Kshetragnya first? Why is He not discussing anything else?
Understanding self is.
So what do we do in our Science of Self-Realization preaching programs? In our Bhakti Vrikshas, what do we teach first? If we don't tell them that, nothing in the realm of devotional service will make any sense to anyone. The first knowledge is what? Who am I? Only if we understand that we are not this body, will we understand that our existence is beyond this lifetime also. If as long as people don't understand this simple truth, they'll say, fine, at the end of the day, how does it matter how I live? I may do whatever, at least I have lived this lifetime properly. I have become a big man, I have earned money, I have earned prestige. That should be good enough. At what cost it has come, how does it matter? Karma, who knows whether there's a next lifetime or not. So this is the usual thinking. So do whatever, but live life king size. Like that. That is the thinking. So therefore we have to first tell them that no, hang on, your life is not, your existence is eternal. Your body may not be eternal, but your existence is eternal. And for that we have to tell them the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So any preaching program opens with this topic. Even when we go on a Namahata program, if there is a new crowd, what do we talk about? We don't talk about Rasa Tattva with them, right? We talk at the basics, right? We always tell them, did you know you are not your body? And most people are flabbergasted when they hear this. I'm not my body. Like that. Because most of them think that they are this body. I'm a human being. Even sometimes when we address Hindu programs, last year I was addressing one program at Ganesh Chaturthi festival. They had invited, us to speak there. So there are some 100, 120 people there. I don't know, anyone came with me there? Nobody was there. Huge crowd. Hindus, mostly Telugu speaking people. So most of them did not know that they were there. They were not their body. So we had to call one person, I called one person from the audience to the stage. Told him, now look, all of you see there is an experiment we are going to do. And then we did Prabhupada's famous experiment. This nose, this is my nose, this is my ear. If everything is yours, who are you? And then they think, yeah, that's true. Whose nose is it? Who is speaking? Who is thinking that this is my nose? So when you go deeper and deeper, then for devotees it's not rocket science. But for someone who is coming for the first time, it can change someone's perception of life. This simple fact, right? For me it happened. I remember many years back, first time when I went to Radha Gopinath temple in Chopati, then at that time Gaurang Prabhu was sitting in one corner and meditating, and Gaurang Prem Prabhu had taken me there, said you go and meet that person, because I was reading some books, Rajneesh and Ramana Maharishi, all these things I was reading to understand. So when Gaurang Prabhu asked me, do you know who you are? Then I told him my name is this. Sir, I didn't ask you your name. I said, who you are? Who are you? He asked me. So he gave me, and then he told me, give me your hand. And then he gave me that experiment. What is this? I said, my finger. And that's when that same thing stuck with me throughout. So whenever I also start, then we usually adopt this method of preaching. It's very powerful. And then it really, after reading the whole of that book of Ramana Maharishi, I did not understand in a way in which Gaurang Prabhu explained to me in 1 minute. Not because of the author, because of my own intelligence. I needed someone who can really teach me practically that I am not this body. Give me that realization without having to go through death and realize it. Right? So it's a very simple example. So Lord Krishna also, if you see, when he is taking the position of a guru to Arjuna, the first thing he is instructing is, Arjuna, you are not this body. That's why we see all those verses, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe, all those verses coming in the second chapter are oriented towards. So whenever we go out to preach, the first message which we must give is that we must make people aware that they are not their bodies. Okay? They may accept Shiva as supreme, they may think Murugan is supreme personality of Godhead, or they may think that Bill Gates is the supreme personality of Godhead. It doesn't matter what they think. But everyone will unanimously agree that they are not this body when given this experiment. Nobody will deny that. Yes, those people who are not sleeping will deny that. Because you cannot awaken a person who is not sleeping. You can only awaken a person who is genuinely asleep. Someone who is pretending to be asleep, even if you tell him he has decided he is not going to be awake. So what can you do? So this is the first message that we have to give. So even in this chapter, Lord Krishna therefore is dealing with the subject of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. O son of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. When you read this translation, what disturbs you most? Does anything disturb you when you read this kind of verses? What?
Affirming.
Huh?
Lord is speaking, this is my opinion.
We speak
Always his
my
opinion.
Lord is saying
Correct.
his opinion.
So when the Lord says that is my opinion, whenever I read this, even I was thinking, why is he saying, ऐसा क्यों लिखते हैं? भगवान भी ऐसा बोलते हैं, this is my opinion. Right? But Burijan Prabhu explains it beautifully. Why the Lord speaks like that. I was thinking, why? He is also not sure here. My opinion. Because Prabhupada blasts, no? Your opinion, opinion of the masses, vox populi. Prabhupada says nonsense. No? There is no opinion. It is coming from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So why does Lord Krishna now say? The next verse anyway will give you a direct, verse number 5 gives a direct understanding of why the Lord says. We'll come to that. Suspense for now. Unless for those of you who have read and come. Madhavanand Prabhu is not here. Where is he? Huh?
I don't know.
You don't know where he is.
No, I think Krishna's class in afternoon.
How fortunate he
You are
is.
supposed
That he can get away with it. Okay. So you can read the purport offline unless you already read and come, which I'm sure you have. So in this section, what is the key message? Prabhupada writes a long purport, you can read it offline, but essentially it is how a jiva is brought in connection with his or her body. There is a soul, there is a body. How the soul gets connected to that body, that is explained to some extent. Of course, there are detailed descriptions elsewhere also. So the theme is how the jiva is brought into connection with the body and then how the jiva gets entangled by it subsequently. So that it starts identifying with his or her body. And that's the theme of this section. For the next 2 or 3 verses, that mood is coming across. Now, this body is what is the kshetra. We have already discussed that. The field of activities. This body is the kshetra. Now, why does this body experience happiness and distress? So there is an interesting analogy which is given, saying that just as crops which come out depend on what? Depend on the seeds which are sown. What is that? English proverb?
As you sow, you
As you sow, so shall you reap. Yeah, okay. So just as the crops depend upon the quality of the seed which is sown, similarly the happiness and the distress which the soul experiences grow on the body of the soul. Does that make sense? What is the field? The body. The plant, the crops come out from the field. What does it depend on? The quality of the seed. So similarly this body is a field. I have to concentrate a little bit. I know it's 8:30. We'll get through this section. Don't worry. Good times will come. No misery is permanent. No, it's not misery. It's Bhagavad Gita. I told you the merits. If you stay awake, then all sins are going to be pardoned. So try to stay awake. So there is a body. There is a field. Yeah, the analogy is given of the field. Seed is sown. As the quality of the seed is, so will be the crops that will come out. Okay. So the happiness and distress, what is it equal to here in the analogy? The crops. Happy crop, sad crop. Right? So happiness and distress grow in this body. Or in the field of activities according to one's previous actions, which is the seed. Happiness and distress is the crop. Bijam, papam, all that is seed. Right? And the body is the field. Please understand this. Clear, everyone? So this is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3rd canto, chapter 31, text 1, where it is mentioned, Karmana Daiva Netrena Janto Deha Upapatteye Striya Pravishta Udaram Pumsa Reta Kana Ashraya. Which means what? Karmana Daiva Netrena. How do jivas get their bodies? Because of their karma. Daiva Netrena, which means under the jurisdiction or the vision of the Supreme, of divinity, which is a super soul. Because if you go back to your Bhaktivedanta material, which we studied many years back, how does the soul travel? Just like Prabhupada says, the aroma. You remember that purport?
Yes.
Travels like that. So therefore the super soul takes to the next destination. Like that. Super soul is always there along with the jiva. So karmana daiva netrana, under the supervision of divinity, jantur deha upapate. All of us get our bodies, deha. Striya pravishta udaram. How the soul enters the udaram. Udaram means what? Womb of a woman, of a stri. Striya pravishta. Pravishta udaram. Pumsa. Pumsa means men. Pumsa reta kanashraya. Semen of a man. Just kanashraya, very small. Enters. Semen itself is very small. Inside that the soul, which is 1/10,000th, the tip of a hair, is sitting inside that and then going into the body of a woman. But the whole process is not mechanical. It is karmana, based on the karma. That is why it's very important. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj was, we were in Sydney 2 weeks back, right? Yeah, we were in Sydney attending the seminar of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. He opened, the whole topic of demonic and divine nature so beautifully. So beautifully opened the topic. He said that most of us try to bring up our children in good Krishna consciousness after they are born. Which is a reactive or proactive? Even in that reactive, most mankind are reactive after the child already has, बोलते हैं ना सर क्या पानी से क्या हो गया? सर पानी सर के ऊपर से चला गया. So most of us react too late anyway in life. But some of us think that we have been proactive because our child, since childhood, we have taken our child to the temple, he is hearing Bhagavatam class, attending Mangala Arati, this, that. But still we are late, even if we are doing that. Because the process of whether the child, what qualities the child will have, it's already decided when the soul is invited to the womb. That is why if you read that Hiranyakashipu pastime, what happened at that time? The conception happened at an inappropriate time, and therefore Lord Shiva, who is in charge of releasing the ghosts, then he releases that soul into the womb. So the timing of conception is the most proactive way of ensuring that the child is a devotee. Not after that. After that it's a patchwork. And then prayers and mercy, oh Lord, like that. But that is the stage. It starts from there. So Pumsa Reta Kanashraya. At that stage, if a good soul, if a devotee soul can be attracted into the womb of a mother, then the struggle of the parents is much less. Whereas, most of us, of course, you are not in Krishna consciousness. Okay. At whatever time that, during, most of us, I don't know, maybe some of you were already devotees, but many of us, at least I was not. It's not that, necessarily a demonic child will come, because if you see the fathers of our spiritual masters, they did not undergo Garbhadana Samskara to have their children. Of course, but you can also say that many of them, for example, are some of them might be Nitya Siddhas who have come here as our spiritual masters, like that. So it's a different issue, or the Lord can still change the rules of the game. So that's a completely different matter, because it is also said on one end that the principles of karma can never be understood. Because the Lord is never predictable. You can't put the Lord into an arithmetic equation. Okay, Lord, I have done this. Now I must go back to Godhead. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes the most sinful person, if he wants, he can send back to Godhead. And the most pious man can still continue. Of course, he can make all those. He is supremely independent. Swarat. Completely independent. Like that. So the knowledge of the Kshetrajna, soul, is very important. Karmana Deva Netra. We have to remember that every jiva gets happiness or distress based on karma. Now, talking of Kshetrajna is what? The jiva or the soul. What Arvind Prabhu was saying a few minutes back. There are two types of Kshetrajna. That is what is mentioned here. If you see the translation, what does the Lord say? Oh, Siyan of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower of all the bodies. So there are two types of Kshetrajna. The jiva who knows his body, but he knows only his own body. That too imperfectly. How many of you, hands up if you know your body perfectly? Correct? Sometimes if there is a boil behind, somebody has to tell. I don't even know. Or sometimes if it's paining, we don't even know whether it is sinus or whether it is toothache. That day we are struggling. My mother was struggling. It is paining here. We thought it was sinus. Then the doctor said there is a tooth infection. So we can't even know our own bodies. What to speak of, Kshetrajna knowing all the bodies, right? So therefore, the jiva knows his own body, that too imperfectly. But the super soul as Kshetrajna. Super soul is also Kshetrajna. He knows all the bodies completely. Who is that? Paramatma, the super soul. So there's an interesting analogy which is given. Just like the farmer knows his own field very nicely, but the king to whom all the farmers report, he knows about all the fields. Or in our office, if you have to speak corporate language, the delivery manager knows, or at least he's supposed to know. Theoretically, yes, he knows, he's supposed to know everything, what's going on. Depends on whether he cares or not. Right? But the senior you are expected to know more and more of everything that's happening around you. That's why Ganja, hair gone. Okay. But the super soul is not Ganja. The super soul is Krishna. He is the person who can know everything, about everything that's going on, right? In this cosmos. We can't even know beyond a certain jurisdiction, it becomes very difficult. Then we say, I can't do it anymore. That's it. This is all I can know. Because we are limited. Now, so Lord is describing Kshetra and Kshetrajna in this verse. And Lord is also introducing little bit of smattering of Jnana here, which is another topic. So Jnana, in the context of this verse only, is knowing the body, knowing the soul, and knowing the super soul who knows all the bodies and the souls. What is Jnana? That is the Jnana part which is mentioned in this verse. If you can read Prabhupada's purport, you will understand it. Okay. Now, why this Jnana is coming in between? Is it not enough to have Kshetra and Kshetrajna? Why the Jnana is required here? That is because it is said that merely knowing that one is not one's body is mode of goodness. Merely knowing that one is not one's body, merely knowing the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna is mode of goodness. But that is not enough for liberation. Because even the Mayavadis know that they are not this body. But what happened? Mayavade Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash. Correct? That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Right? So therefore, merely that knowledge is not enough. So one has to have understanding of the higher Kshetrajna, that is the super soul. Only with that knowledge can we attain liberation. So that knowledge is absolutely required. With that knowledge only one can enter the Brahma Bhuta platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kamshati. Because you know you don't have any hankering or lamentation, because you know somebody is going to take care of you. But unless you have that knowledge, till that time then lamentation and hankering will come. Right? So it's not enough just to not know we are the body and we are the spirit soul. If Prabhupada would have just written, you are not the body, you are the spirit soul, would all of us be happy just with that knowledge? Obviously not. Then there is Shravanam Kirtana, there is some activity and there is some Supreme Personality. So there is a goal to attain, there is a purity level to obtain, there is an eternal service, there is a pastime which all of us have to enter at the end of our lives. Nitya Leela of Lord. So this knowledge is the preliminary knowledge, that's all. So therefore the Jnana of the super soul is very important in this context. So Prabhupada writes, if both are one and undifferentiated, how can one aspect guide the other in knowledge? If soul and super soul, soul is also Kshetrajna, super soul is also Kshetrajna, right? What is the difference? Super soul knows all the Kshetras. Soul maximum can know one Kshetra, that also imperfect. Like I gave the example of the toothache. Right? So Prabhupada writes that if both are one, then how can one aspect guide the other aspect? How can the super soul guide? Because one, so who is guiding here? Who is guiding who? So therefore the whole Bhagavad Gita becomes meaningless then. Because the Lord says, Tesham evanu kampartam aham ajnana jam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. This is the Chatushloki of Bhagavad Gita. 10 point. Huh?
11.
Sorry.
In one verse it is like Upadrishta Hanumanta.
Correct. Upadrishta Hanumanta is also there.
But in another verse like Chantamaha, which means the heart. So which means there's 3 functions of Super Soul.
Yeah. Guiding also, no? Yeah. Upadrishta, witness, sanctioner, and also guide. Also guide. Yeah. So then who is guiding who? If the soul himself is Paramatma, then why the Lord would have spoken as such? So that's it. You understand, no? It's a technical section, but you have to really understand the finer point which are coming across here. Clear to everyone? Hands up if you are sleeping. Actually, you are sleeping. Actually, raise your hand.
When the soul is in the body, it may be. Is it like this? When the soul is in the body, it's limited to the knowledge because it's a Satchidananda. That's the nature of the soul.
Sorry?
Satchidananda is the nature of the soul.
Yes.
So Chit is fully knowledgeable, isn't it?
What? Chit is fully knowledgeable, yes.
So when the soul is out of this body, will it have the knowledge about all other things as well? Or just the knowledge about one such only?
See, in second chapter it is mentioned that the soul can never be touched by anything external. So the soul's qualities can never be deteriorated. It can, but because we are Tathastha Shakti, it can be covered. Okay, I'll give you an example. In our Bhakti Vriksha, we usually, I think I've given this example before also. When we take our group for picnics, so what we do, one of the things which we did recently also, but Milpark Bhakti Vriksha we recently did. You were there? Or just Bhakti Vriksha, picnic. So we tie the feet of the husband and the wife. That's called as what? Three-legged race. Yeah, we tie. And then we ask everyone to run. Obviously, the point we are trying to teach is that it's not about the husband going alone in devotional life and wife going alone. You have to take the whole family together. So you have to synchronize the pace at which the husband and wife does devotional service. So that's the point we try to teach. But nevertheless, they say, "Arey Prabhu, kyun bandha yaar?" No, because it is inhibiting you. Your ability is what? To run at 20 kilometers per hour. I don't know what is the average speed at which a human being runs. 60. What is the average speed?
14.
Huh? 14 kilo, okay, whatever. Let's say it is 10 to 15 kilometers per hour, whatever. But what happens when you tie to another foot, then what happens? Then, though there is a capacity to run, inherently, that capacity is thwarted. You can't. There's a constraint which is put around that. Like that. That is the problem. So the soul is knowledgeable. It doesn't happen, the soul's knowledge goes down. But it is covered. Prabhupada always uses the word covered. It's covered. And when that covering is removed, then the soul will shine in its original constitutional position.
But will it have the knowledge about other souls as well in that case?
Because of the covering, it does not have the knowledge. But when the covering is removed, yes, because we are qualitatively one with the Lord.
So in that case, I think you mentioned one point that the super soul knows about all other souls. If the soul becomes free of this body.
Yeah, it doesn't need a super soul. In the spiritual world, there is no concept of super soul. It's only in the material world.
At that stage, it will have knowledge of.
Yeah. Super soul is only required because we are bad children. The mother will only come behind the child when when the mother perceives that the child, mera bachcha ko kuch ho jayega. When the child is sitting in the school bus, but the mother is also going behind in an auto, saying that has the school bus reached the school properly? Has my child got into the classroom? It's like that. So similarly, the Lord, who is the Supreme Father, comes with us, saying that, okay, I don't want this guy to suffer. At every point in time, I'll give a little bit of slaps here and there and guide him back to me, like that.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that there is no concept of super soul in spiritual world. What does that mean? That the soul in the spiritual world doesn't have Paramatma next to it?
Krishna.
Bhagavan realization, why Paramatma is required there? See, Paramatma realization, there is no ras. You can't enter the spiritual world. If you Brahma Samhita, it is written that if you have any other conceptions of God other than the pristine understanding that Lord Krishna is a simple cowherd boy, then you can't enter Golok Vrindavan. There is no, not even if we have the understanding of Lord Krishna, Krishna's Narayana features, you can't enter Golok Vrindavan. Then your destination is somewhere else, right? Even if you understand the princely nature of Lord Krishna, you can't enter Golok Vrindavan. You have to be on the outer periphery of Goloka, Mathura or Dwaraka. Right? So what to speak of Paramatma? Paramatma understanding does not, there is no rasa in Paramatma understanding. Rasa will only come when you are talking about the Mukhya Nam, not the Gauna Nam. You remember in last year Bhakti Sastri, when we started the course, we discussed that, the names of the Lord. So Mukhya Nam is what, where there is ras. In the Gauna Nam there is no ras. Okay. So Mayavadis cannot see this distinction. So Prabhupada is writing all this. Then how can one guide the other? And the Mayavadis interpret the word cha as oneness of soul and super soul. In this verse, the word cha is given, no? Kshetrajnam cha api. Okay, that word cha is also. Okay. So how the Mayavadis say? You are also the super soul. They interpret it like that. Whereas Prabhupada says, no, sorry. It indicates that the super soul also knows the other bodies. So see the subtle, how Mayavadis interpret the Bhagavad Gita. So that word cha is very important. And who has interpreted it the other way? Lord Shankaracharya himself has done that. Obviously to bewilder the atheists, Prabhupada writes. Though Shankaracharya himself was a coward personalist. Now Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the body, just hear carefully, that should be good enough. He explains that the body with senses is the facility for material contact. The body with its senses is the facility which is given for material contact. Right? So it is a so-called field. Because the body is the ground on which the tree of material existence grows. Correct? What is that verse which we said? Aham mameti. Pumsa striya mithuni bhavametam. Then? Iti bahur. Ato grihakshetra suta abda vitaya janasya mohoyam aham mameti. Aham mameti means what? The concept of I and mine. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything belongs to me. Right? So therefore, because we think like that we are the controller, we are the doer, I am Indian, I am Telugu, I am Tamilian, I am North Indian, so many identities, I am this boss, you are that subordinate, so many false conceptions we have in this lifetime, and that drives our behavior and actions everywhere. So therefore, it is mentioned that this body is the ground on which the tree of material existence grows. Prabhupada says, the Purusha Bhav keeps this whole world running. The attraction between man and Pumsa Striya Mithuni Bhavametam. This is the teachings of Lord Rishabhadev in Canto 5. Okay. So that is how the whole world runs, on this principle of sex desire. Every activity is going on like that to please the opposite sex. Yesterday we had, because the parents are leaving, we went to that Chadston shopping center to do some shopping. So there, hordes and hordes of ladies are sitting there, in the David Jones when you enter, and all of them like this, the eyebrows there, some part of the eyebrow is green color, part pink color, so much, and you are really thinking, my goodness, this body ke liye itna, wo bhi idhar eyebrow mein idhar pink or idhar different green, like that. Not eyebrow, what is eyelashes now? What is that called? Eyebrow is this now. Eyelash, not even eyebrow. Eyelash, here one color and here another color. Just 2 minutes I was just shocked. So that is a state. So much concept, bodily concept. I am the body. So it is mentioned that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, like a farmer, the Kshetrajna also is the enjoyer of fruits of the tree in his field. The farmer enjoys the fruits of the tree of his field. So Kshetrajna enjoys the fruits of the tree of his field. But however, the tree produces both good fruits as well as bad fruits. So kabhi khushi, kabhi gum. Okay. Both come in the material world. Okay. One tree of material existence one tree of material existence appears in many forms as a means of attaining hell, heaven or liberation. This is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes. Therefore, the tree born of external energy, this tree is born of what? The external energy of the Lord. It's called as Maya Mayam. So all this is written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You can read Surrender Unto Me for further information. I'm just mentioning some important points that I came across. But by mercy of Guru, we can understand this tree very well. At least we can understand we are not this tree of this body, right? We can understand this very well. And it is mentioned that those who know the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, even that much, they are said to be knowing all the Vedas. As long as we know we are not the body, right? And the body is different from the self, then that knowledge means that you have understood the summum bonum of the Vedas. Like that. Prabhupada is writing that in the purport. Okay. Bhaktivedanta VedaBase also adds to this, Srila Bhaktivedanta VedaBase adding to this, that this body gives different perceptions of the self. Different seasons, different fruits and flowers, different perceptions it gives. For example, in office also you will find someone, somebody is at a junior level. Till that time they behave in a particular way. The moment they get promotion, suddenly the chest goes up like that. The air of authority comes, yes, or like that. Or some people, when they specifically go to some higher grade, they will start sporting those, salt pepper kind of look, and looking dapper and speaking in a particular way. Before that they were normal. But after some time some booth comes, and you try to become somebody different than what you are not actually. Try to pretend. Or when people come new, in this country, especially PR where leke jo aate hain, there is one Mataji who is there. Initial days, of course now she has become normal because she is devotee now. But initial days, she will put on, grammar is completely out of the way. There is no sense of English grammar in what she speaks, but accent is there. And I was thinking, aisa kaisa ho sakta hai? How come Aussie accent without grammar? This can be only wolf in sheep's clothing. Correct? No concept of English. Probably studied in some vernacular medium, but yes, well, and something like that. So we try so much, we get different perceptions of ourselves. The moment we land here, we think we are Aussie. And then our behavior, everything becomes different. So that's what, when you read this, it gives so much of meaning when Bhaktivedanta VedaBase writes this. This body gives different perceptions of the self. हर दिन एक नए सपने दिखाता है कि आप कौन हो. Correct? Oh, today onwards you are this. Oh, today onwards you are this. Even in devotional life. Gauranga Prabhu says, initially we start by becoming Das, Dasanudas. Then we become Dasanudas. Then we become Das. Then we become Prabhu. And then finally we want to become Mahaprabhu. This is the problem. Different conceptions of the self. From simple devotee we become complex. Right? I am this, I am that. But it is mentioned that one who knows even in sleep that one is separate from one's body, such a person has understood the real Kshetrajna. He is the real Kshetrajna, knower. Knowing that I am not this body, knowing that this body is a facility which is given by the Lord for my liberation. And I should use this body in the service of the Lord. Yukta Vairagya. Such a person is Kshetrajna. Clear everything on this verse? I told you it's a bit technical. But all your sins will go away. So there is more of Kshetra in the next verse, which is coming up. We went to only 5 verses today. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Okay. So here, 5 questions are going to be answered by the Lord. What are those? A, one is how the body is constituted. 2, what changes the body undergoes. 3. How, when and where the body is produced. 4. Identity of the knower of the field of activities. And 5th, influence of the knower. This will come in your exam. Please by heart this. Can you repeat, sir? No, I was joking. So basically these are topics. We will come to know more when we discuss. You don't have to buy out all this. And the Lord, actually, it's interesting. If you see this purport, this verse, the Lord says, can you see the word briefly? Now please hear my brief descriptions. Prabhupada translates like that. Samasena. Samasena means what? In summary. That's why Prabhupada uses the word brief. That's very important. Now please hear my brief description. So it is mentioned that the Lord mentions He will describe in brief because this topic itself is limitless. And because this topic is limitless, and where are they right now? You and I are sitting in this air-conditioned room. But where are they sitting and discussing this? The battlefield of Kurukshetra. Sometimes we forget, no, where this discussion is going on. It's not in a room that Arjuna is sitting in a chair and making notes. There is Kurukshetra war that is going on. Anybody can get killed anytime in this knowledge. So Lord is saying that He will be brief because look, this is a limitless topic, but abhi ke liye, I'll keep it brief. And the Lord says greater details. He tells in the next verse, greater details of this I will tell you where to be found. He tells, Lord is telling that in the next verse He is going to tell where greater details are to be found. And that's why the Lord talks about the scriptures now. In the next verse. See this. Text 5. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. Okay? He is saying that knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetrajna is described by various sages in various scriptures. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Okay. Now this is a very interesting point. So what question came to your mind when you read this verse? Assuming that you have read and come to the class.
Opinion. It is my opinion that what you were discussing.
Correct. Now this will answer that question. This is my opinion why the Lord says like that. And also, why does the Lord have to say, for example, when we are preaching, people will challenge it. Hey, where is it written Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead? And they will say, oh no, Etecham Chakala Pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan. We have to rattle off all those. But why is the Lord have to tell His disciple, His devotee, to tell that scriptures may be likha hai? Why Lord is saying like that? Isn't it surprising? Peculiar aspect of this verse. Lord is saying Vedanta Sutra. Why? Any guesses?
Everything has come from the He says 15 Vedas Sarvayame.
Yes, but then why does the Lord have to say about the scriptures? Lord is saying I am the Vedas in 15.15, but that anyway has not come even till now, it has not come that section. But even if assuming it would have come, the Lord is simply saying I am the origin of the Vedas. But why does He have to allude to the Vedas? Why does He have to say Vedas? He could always say I said this in the Vedas by the way. Please refer there. He didn't say like that. He said even the Vedas are saying like this. Even the Upanishads are saying. That's what the Lord is saying. Is He subordinate to the scriptures?
Is He teaching us humility?
He is teaching us humility. Okay, interesting point.
Accept the authority of the scriptures.
He is telling him to accept the authority of the scriptures. Why?
Because people might not accept him as the authority.
Arjuna
Not Arjuna.
will not accept him as the authority.
But this is said for everyone, right?
Okay, fine.
There has to be a point of
Still not quite there.
There has to be a point of reference to.
Okay.
He's giving weightage for the Vedas.
They're getting creative at 9 o'clock. Okay. Because what is the role the Lord is playing in Arjuna's life right now? Huh? That's fine. Is it clear? Beautiful point, no? Lord is playing the role of spiritual master of Arjuna right now. Because he says, please accept me as your disciple. So he's taken the hat off of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now again he's coming back to the hat of his Guru. And what does the Guru always tell the disciple? Guru always corroborates whatever he teaches to the disciple via the Shastras. So I thought that point was beautiful when I was reading the purports and Gurujan Prabhu's commentary. It's a good learning, no, for today. How humble the Lord is. So that's why he uses the word in my opinion and then corroborates, saying that look, I told you that opinion, no, it's coming in the Shastra. He says like that. That is how a Guru should be. Guru should always speak in deference with the Sadhu and Shastras. Srila Prabhupada also quotes in this purport from Taittiriya Upanishad of the Yajurveda to confirm that more details are available in the Vedas. Now, what is the point here? Now, this is very important to understand again from your whatever exam point of view or whatever. And this is little bit you have to concentrate on. Just 15 minutes of studies, 9:15. Because there's a technical, this is the most difficult part is coming now. You have survived through all this now. Just 15 more minutes, please hear carefully. Ready? Vedic knowledge. What is the process of acquiring Vedic knowledge? Shruti. Or what is another word which is given in Isopanisad? Avaroha Pantha, not Aroha Pantha. Aroha Pantha means Upa Janega. Avaroha means coming down. Sani Dapa Magarisam. So Avaroha Pantha, that is the process of understanding spiritual knowledge of the Vedas. What is the translation of Avaroha Pantha? Understanding directly through disciplic succession. That is a way of understanding Vedic knowledge. That we all know. Correct? However, there are two Vedic systems by which one can progress indirectly in self-realization. What is the direct way of progressing in self-realization? Directly hear from the saintly personalities. Avaroha Pantha or Shruti or Shabda Praman. Right? But there are two Vedic systems, out of which one is explained in this purport. If you have read, you will know. There are two Vedic systems which are indirect ways of attaining realization of the Supreme. Are you with me or not? I can see blank faces even now. What is the direct way of attaining knowledge of the Vedas and self-realization? Avaroha Pantha. Now, other than this direct, there are two Vedic ways where indirectly one tries to understand that the presence of the absolute truth. The first system is called as Vyasti and the second system is called as Samasti. Okay? Don't worry if you can't remember these words. Before the exam we'll do recap. At that time you can note down by heart the previous day and forget after 2 days. Okay. The first is called Vyasti and the second is called Samasti. Now what is this Vyasti process? What is the difference? In the Vyasti process is a system in which the person directs his meditation towards his own self and thus seeks to understand the absolute truth. The person directs his meditation towards his own self and thus seeks to understand the absolute truth. Something very similar to Dhyana Yoga, something similar to that. You're directing inside, you're drawing your mind inside, and then from inside your mind then you're trying to go deeper and deeper understanding. Okay, who am I, and then you understand you are not the body, and still further meditation you will also understand the super soul. Then you understand the difference, and then you get attracted to the super soul comes and shows the 400 form, and then you get attracted, and now you want to build a relationship. Therefore, that is not possible in Ashtanga Yoga. Relationship can be only built with the Lord in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, from Dhyana Yoga you move to Bhakti Yoga. We saw all that, right? So, in Vyasti, the system, the person directs his meditation towards the self and then through the self seeks to understand the absolute truth by considering himself a fragment of the Supreme. But still Dhyana Yoga is a pretty big process. We are going to see different levels of this Vyasti system, which is mentioned in the purport. Again, please, because when I start going into details, you will forget the higher level thing. What are we discussing right now? We are discussing Vyasti, which is a slow process of understanding the Lord, which is an indirect way of understanding the Lord through understanding the nature of one's own self. Through that you are extrapolating and inferring what the Lord is. Right? It's like that. You are drawing an inference from taking a small sample like that. So Prabhupada very nicely gives this example that it's like studying the ocean through a drop from the ocean. And then concluding about the ocean. Like that. Now what is that drop? That is called as observation of the 5 koshas or sheaths that have encased one's consciousness. Are you with me or you lost me?
Study lost.
5 koshas. Don't ask me what is koshas. The English word for that is sheath. You know, sheath is a layer. Sheath. S-H-E-A-T-H. Sheath. It's a layer. Right? By studying the 5 koshas, you are trying to understand the absolute truth. It's an indirect process. So don't worry about it. You and I don't have to do that. You have to just chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and Prabhupada said, if you still don't go to the front door, I will take you through the back door. But Prabhupada also said, I will be very happy. My disciples must take exams. Prabhupada also said that. There must be exam, Prabhupada said. So we have to study this and write. So, by observing the 5 koshas or sheaths which have encased our consciousness. You know what is encased? Cover kar diya hai. Pura consciousness ko cover kar diya hai. Ye 5 sheaths ne. What are those is explained in the purport. It took me quite a while to understand this. The first is Annamaya. The first. What are we talking about? We are talking about Vyasti. Vyasti is a system in which a person directs his meditation towards the self and thus seeks to understand the absolute truth. Akin to studying the drop of an ocean and extending it to the concept of Godhead. So there are 5 koshas or sheets, 5 ways of understanding how usually one can understand the Lord. Not at the same level, all are different levels of consciousness. The lowest level of understanding is Annamaya. Next is, higher than that is Pranamaya, then Jnanamaya, then Vijnanamaya, and then finally Anandamaya. So this is what Prabhupada writes in the purport. Okay? So, what is Annamaya? Annamaya is dependence upon food for existence. So you understand the energy of the Lord through Anna. Bas. Full stop. Pura time, Kali, Vicharam. My mother says sometimes in Tamil, Anna Vicharam, Aduve Vicharam. Which means, full time person thinking, Abhi Prashadam kabhi hoga hai. Does it happen to anyone in the morning Bhagavatam class? After the Bhagavatam class, we come into the Annamaya stage. Gauranga Prabhu was once telling the best part of the lecture is Mahaprasada Govinda. So Annamaya. Annamaya means that the consciousness is only that much developed that one sees everything as food, potential food. Isko bhi dekha food.
Are you telling us?
No, not us. There are species lower than us also. Fortunately, there are species lower than us also, where they see everything as food. On a lighter note, but it's an interesting example, that when a man sees a beautiful woman, he's thinking of union with that woman. But when a tiger sees that beautiful woman, food, like that. Correct? Correct, no? Or when a man sees a famous personality, let's say, one sees Sachin Tendulkar, like that. But when a tiger sees Sachin under the forest, yummy food, plump man. See the way. Correct? Do you get an idea of what is Annamaya by this example? That is Annamaya. That's the closest I can explain. Don't ask me to explain. Everything is potential food. But you are seeing that your whole consciousness is that I get that food and that is my concept of survival. That's my goal of life. Annamaya consciousness. No awareness of one's own existence from the existence of all else. You have no awareness that of your existence vis-a-vis other existence. So this is mostly the beasts. And the two-legged beasts also. Okay. Right? This is Annamaya. Higher than that is Pranamaya. Pranamaya is living symptoms and life forms, trying to understand the absolute truth in terms of living systems and life forms that are there. Evolved, little bit more evolved. For example, a cat does not understand that the tiger is a different body than the cat. It sees but doesn't understand. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
It doesn't have a concept of life, or it doesn't have those concepts in mind. Maya means concepts, right? The concept of Anna being everything. The concept of Prana, where there is awareness of one's own active life symptoms and one identifies with that. Then when one identifies with that, then his view of the external world, a person who is in Pranamaya, such person's view of the external world is unified by the principle of maintaining his own survival. That's what Gurujan Prabhu writes. At the end of the day, what I have to do? Somehow, I have to maintain myself. Let's keep it very simple. Forget all the esoteric explanations. Okay? Very simple. Annamaya means what? पूरा खाना उसके ऊपर even survival का भी concept नहीं है. ऐसा भी नहीं है. So much food that even if you give money, then also they will try to bite that money. Is it food? Like that. Then they will go to the grain. Does it make sense? Right? That is Annamaya. Whereas Pranamaya means you know that this is money and this money is required for my survival. Does it make sense? Slightly evolved. Thoda upar Annamaya se. Where your survival consciousness, not only food consciousness. Correct? At least you know I need food for my survival, but food is not the goal of my life. That much. Little bit more evolved. Does it make sense? Yes or no? Yes. Very good. Okay, Pranamaya. This is the closest we can explain. His view of the external world, now you understand. His view of a Pranamaya person is unified by the principle of maintaining his own survival. Prabhupada says, example is what? All materialistic human beings are in this mode. Pranamaya, materialistic human beings. Monday morning, all of us are in a place where everyone is trying to survive. Right? Cutthroat. How can I take your chair? Correct? How I am better than you. Why I am better than you. How you should respect me. How you should obey me. Because I am the greatest. Right? And we do whatever that is required to survive there. Do politics, do whatever that is required. Or work 15 hours a day, 20 hours a day. If other person is working 18, I will put another 2 hours. Right? And come on weekends also. Right? This is how. Because everyone is worried about his or her survival. Who will protect me otherwise? Who will take care of me? Like that. So this is a fear. Living in the fear. And therefore, too much attention to the living symptoms. Then higher than that is the Jnanamaya. Jnanamaya is awareness of his own thinking, feeling and willing. In Jnanamaya, you are not only aware of the living symptoms and life forms, where means you are only not thinking about your existence, but you are also going into little bit of a subtle domain. Am I making sense? You are going into a subtle domain of thought, where you are aware of your own thinking, feeling and willing. So you may take a step back and say, hang on, why am I doing what I am doing? At least that much you are thinking. Now you started thinking. Little bit you are coming to the mode of, which mode? Goodness. If you actually see, there is a nice relationship. Annamaya is what? Total mode of ignorance. Pranamaya may little bit mode of passion is coming in, ignorance and passion. Now you are seeing, Jnanamaya you are migrating towards some goodness because you at least started thinking. What is the goal of, maybe not that, but at least you have started thinking about why am I doing what I am doing. Some knowledge, you have started asking the question why about things, right? So that is Jnanamaya. Awareness of one's own thinking, feeling and willing. And Prabhupada says, example is, these are the people who follow Vedic culture or Vedic knowledge. Not spiritual life, I'm saying. Vedic knowledge. Eventually that will lead you to spiritual life is a different Maya. But at least, for example, someone who is perfectly doing all the ritualistic sacrifices, living proper Varnashrama Dharma. Correct, no? But that Varnashrama Dharma itself is not enough to take us back to Godhead. So therefore Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj said, Daivi Varnashrama. That Varnashrama Dharma where Krishna is in the center of existence. That will liberate us. Otherwise, general Varnashrama Dharma, if you follow perfectly for how many lifetimes? 100 times still only, you can still become only Lord Brahma. You are still within in Satya Yoga, in Satya Lok. Not beyond that. Not cross the Viraja river and gone beyond. Right? So that is Jnanamaya. Clear so far? Annamaya, Pranamaya and Jnanamaya. Above that is Vijnanamaya. Distinguishing the mind and life symptoms from the self. So here is where which word is important? Distinguishing. Distinguishing, knowing that the eternal spirit is separate from the gross and subtle bodies. This you need not even know in Varnashrama Dharma in one sense. Does it make sense? Now you are entering into the realm of transcendence. Now the soul is entering into the realm of transcendence. Does it make sense? So far still earlier it was completely only about food, then it became a little bit values and culture and all that. And now it is entering the realm of transcendence. That's Vijnanamaya. Eternal spirit separate from gross and material bodies. This is called as the platform of transcendental knowledge. This is transcendental knowledge. This Vijnanamaya is transcendental knowledge. Till that time, it was all mundane, pretty mundane. And then higher than that is Anandamaya. Not only Vijnanamaya, not only knowing that I am not this body, I am the spirit soul, but knowing that the spirit soul, Jivera Swarupa Hoya, Krishnera Nityadas. So knowing that the spirit soul is the servant of Lord Krishna, that is Anandamaya. That is why Prabhupada always, in Bhagavad Gita, many times it is mentioned, Anandamaya Abhyasa. Like that. That is the stage. Anandamaya stage. Now all these above five are progressively developed concepts of subjective consciousness. Don't worry if you didn't understand this sentence. But please hear. Developed concepts of subjective consciousness and manifestations of Lord's energy. Again, don't worry about that. Example. Simple example is, Burijan Prabhu writes, the concept of citizenship exists independently as a reality outside of an individual. You agree? When I was born, did anyone care? Mama, which citizen I am? Did you ever ask? Who cared? Correct? But it was imposed. Oh, you are not Australian citizen. It is something which is imposed from outside. And when you get it, then you start saying, I am Aussie. Or you say, I am Indian. And then, same thing, citizenship or domicile. It can go even further. I am from Maharashtra. Right? Or I am from Tamil Nadu. Again, I am Iyengar. Then in that, Vadama and Ashtasastram. Correct? And maybe there is some sub-branch, I don't know. Okay? People cut each other's throats, If one girl from this marries there and all. Correct? What is that called? Honor killing, they call it on top of that. It's the most dishonorable thing, but they call it as honor killing. Right? So that is the way. So you can understand how all these things are trapping one. Pranamaya, Annamaya. So these are all layers, concepts that we have developed which inhibits our clear thinking of who we are and what our relationship with the Supreme. And therefore all our activities are based on these mayas. Whatever we do, whatever we think, they are all based on this self-concept. Like that. And Prabhupada gives also, Gurujan Prabhu gives an example. However, look at animals. In that sense, animals are a little bit more reward. Animal doesn't say, oh, I'm an Aussie man. I'm an Aussie mate. Have you ever seen a kangaroo tell you? No? Or even the dog here, he says, oh, I'm an Aussie dog. I'm not Indian dog. Correct? Neither is the Australian dog proud when it comes in front of an Indian dog saying that tera halat to municipality hai. Mujhe dekh, BMW car mein jata hu. There is absolutely nothing. At least they don't interact on that platform. They may look at each other saying, oh, which species is this? Correct? And our dog will also think, which species is this? but they don't have concept of citizenship. So they don't deal with them on that platform, that you are Aussie, I am this, or you are that, I am this. No conceptions like that. Okay. So that is the Vyasti. And the second part, which we will not discuss, because there is nothing mentioned anywhere, is the Samasti way of understanding the Lord. So what is the Vyasti way? Taking the soul as an example and extrapolating to understand God. Samasti is one studies the entirety of the universe while considering the universe as a body of the Supreme. Here one takes a small part and tries to extrapolate, understand God. There one takes the entire universe, consider it as the body of the Supreme and then tries to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth. Something like what Prabhupada calls as pantheism or the Virat Rup, study of the Virat Rup, something like that. You can take it. So these are two things. So Samasti is, don't worry about it. These are two. Enough for today? Everyone is very tired, I think, today. Samasti Neya. Okay, so in Samapoam, the Lord is explaining His energies as the 5 koshas and provides the different levels of consciousness to the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field of activities. So the real Kshetrajna is one who is beyond all this Annamaya, Pranamaya and Jnanamaya. Yes, Vijnanamaya is there, but it will lead to Anandamaya. That is what about Kshetrajna. If you know that you are Anandamaya, then you are perfect Kshetrajna. That means I am not this body, and this body is a vehicle to be used in service of Krishna. And then know that there is a super soul which is guiding us from within the heart, but then higher than the super soul is Bhagavan. If we know all those principles which we already know, you don't have to worry about it. But for your exam, from preaching point of view, we may have to understand these things. It's a pretty technical topic. But the most difficult are these 5. After that it will become easier. So now we are talking about humility, pride, all those things, qualities. Srila Prabhupada ki